This podcast is brought to you by the Business of Fatherhood. Thank you for listening. And now that I got your attention with that weird but awkward sponsorship, that is me. I just want to remind you that I also have a second podcast called The Business of Fatherhood. It is a 5-day-a-week. It is a 5-day week. Nope. We're going to get it. We're going to get it right here. It is a 5-day-a-week short daily podcast. Boom! Got it. Taking some of the topics that I've learned here, incorporating them into business life. And so if you like the content we bring here on Military Veteran Dad, head on over to your favorite podcast app. Check out, it's called The Business of Fatherhood. And if you like what you hear, go ahead, leave us a rating and review over there. Trying to grow that show, trying to get that show out there to more and more dads, because as you've learned in this podcast, there is so much about fatherhood that other dads need to know. And this other podcast is my way of connecting with a deeper and a wider audience of dads and helping them come home.
Dory 1, this is Fire Team Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Cloy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast. Welcome back to Military Veteran Dad. This is episode 122. And as promised, if you listened to last week's episode, this week's episode does not disappoint. I gave a little bit of a teaser last Friday about what was going on. Man, do we got a full round of in-your-face, good advice that every veteran needs to hear. Whether you're suffering from PTSD or whether you're in denial about PTSD, this episode is going to move a mountain for you and help you see it in a way that I guarantee you probably haven't heard and as blunt as you've heard it in this episode. Couple advisories. There is swearing pretty profusely in this podcast episode. So if you are listening with kids, this is not the episode to have them in the background. This is an episode to put between your ears where they can't hear or you're in the car by yourself. But this episode with Virginia Cruse is something that is really great to hear because Virginia is a licensed professional counselor, national certified counselor specializing in military issues and combat-related trauma. She provides crisis intervention, evidence-based treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, moral injury, depression, combat operational stress, and other diagnoses. She is certified clinician in cognitive processing therapy and prolonged exposure therapy and has 20 years of experience serving active duty, veterans, military retirees, and family members. And this episode is an hour and 40 minutes, so I am not going to ramble any further. Let's get right to it. And if you want to hear my big takeaway, hang on to the very end of this episode, and I'll be back with you to share it. Welcome to the podcast, Virginia.
Hey, thank you for having me, Ben. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited just to swear a little bit because based on the conversation that we had just getting started before we hit pre-record, this conversation is going to go into a lot of great places. And I would just like to start off, what is the title of your book? Because this will kind of set the stage for where we need to go.
Thank you so much. So I appreciate the introduction. So my book is called The Soldier's Guide to PTSD. And you can find an excerpt. Your listeners can find a free excerpt at thesoldiersguide.com. And the subtitle is How to No Shit Reclaim Your Life.
And you didn't have the hide it with the BS label. You put the no shit way to reclaim your life. Go into that subtitle of like, what about it, that abrasiveness that you said you had to put the pure rawness of what it takes to do that right there on the cover?
You know, Ben, so I'm a therapist now, but I didn't start out that way. So I started out as a soldier, still am a reserve officer. Don't judge me. And the one thing that is really missing, and when I'm talking with my clients, the one thing that we were really missing was the no shit truth. Really just cut through the bullshit with the PTSD. I remember when I first thought I had PTSD. And then after I first got my diagnosis, I went to Dr. Google, scared the fuck out of myself. It was terrifying. Went online, found all of this clinical jargon, got myself a version of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, version 5. Tried to
Oh, that
figure
sounds
out.
like something you would just really just go crazy on. You're like, I don't even know if I should be here anymore. I feel it's not here. I should spontaneously combusted by now.
Brother, no joke. And it didn't explain it in a way that I can understand. And I'm smart as fuck. And if I'm reading it and I'm not picking up what they're putting down, then it's not written in a way that can be understood. And so every guide on PTSD and every workbook and every article, it's generally written by clinicians for clinicians. And we are, and I love being a therapist. There's nothing I would rather do, but we are the biggest echo chamber. Nobody's reading your fucking dissertation paper. Nobody's reading your articles. People are going to Google. And just, there was no soldier to soldier guide on PTSD. It was all written by clinicians for clinicians. And so when I wrote this book, I wrote it from the point of view of a soldier. So after I got licensed, back in the early, 2010s, I got licensed and I decided to become a therapist. I actually got a gig teaching at an inpatient hospital. And I started teaching active duty service members with PTSD and alcoholism and depression, anxiety, the things that generally come with PTSD. And they gave me a curriculum that was terrible. And I was like, you know what, if I'm going to, nobody becomes a therapist for the money or the fame, especially after a career in the military. So I'm in this to no shit change the world. Because why not? That's why you do this podcast.
That's what I do. I had to rewrite my story because my story used to be I was a dumb farm boy from Wisconsin that was never going to do anything special. Now I'm a farm boy from Wisconsin that's going to help change the world.
Bam. Smoking. But, and then so I redid, I went ahead and I just revamped and started writing my own classes. And the thing that was really missing is, what are we not talking about with PTSD? Yeah, I can give you the rundown, but we're not talking about rumors and myths. We're not talking about what PTSD isn't, because there are all these very persistent rumors that just fuck with your head about PTSD. Number one being that you can never recover from it. And that's absolutely not true. There's no data to support that, but we'll put a bookmark there. We're not talking about how do we talk to our families about getting the help we need. We're not talking about how to make boundaries. How do I make a good boundary if I'm still on active duty? What do I do if I have a toxic boss? What do I do if I work for an asshole? How do I make friends? And this is something that you cover very well in your platform, Ben. But how do we make friends when, one of the major criteria of PTSD is avoidance. Everything about avoidance, we want to just get into our shell. How do we make friends without seeming weird or being afraid that we're going to have a meltdown in the Walmart?
You want to know what the weirdest thing that takes a lot of practice?
Yes.
Asking another dad for his number.
Yeah.
Like that's the ultimate moment. Like I've had a couple of them that I'm up on a sledding hill or at a park. Like, hey, what's your number? So we can text after we leave. And it's weird saying it out loud because it's not something naturally part of the society culture. And I come home and I'm like, hey, honey, I got another dad's number. Like, it's just this weird thing. But like, to me, that's like the graduation moment. When you have the courage to ask another man for his cell phone number so you can communicate with him, then you've reached a point where you're not afraid of the rejection. You're not afraid of what could happen. And you're excited about what could happen from being this new friend to this guy you just met.
Yeah. And that's being hard. That is hard to do, Ben, without having PTSD.
Yeah, without PTSD, yeah.
And without, depression, anxiety, and all the shit that comes with it. That's very difficult. And so this book, and why I said it's, how to no shit reclaim your life. It's a short book. I mean, here it is here. I mean, it's pretty short. You can read it in one sitting. We're recording the audiobook this week, and I think it's going to be just over an hour. I mean, it's short, but it should be. I don't need to read somebody's PhD dissertation on moral injury to figure out how to unfuck myself. I need to be able to identify what it is, identify what it's not, figure out what to do about it, figure out what are the evidence-based treatments so I can unfuck myself instead of wasting my time and, talking about my mommy issues or being on a couch or some shit? How can I no shit get the help that I need? How can I create healthy boundaries, have good social support, and come ahead stronger than I was before? And that doesn't take 500 pages. That takes like 100 pages in really big font with pictures. And if we're not breaking it down, we, and when I say we, I mean the therapist community, we're failing. We're failing soldiers. We're failing Marines, coasties, the whole shebang. We're failing everybody. And we're not talking to people. We're just not putting down what people can pick up. And especially, the thing about PTSD and from my own experience is we don't know that our judgment's impaired when our judgment's impaired. Like, no shit. When we're sick, we don't know it.
Someone like I often describe in my coaching, it happens almost regularly. The moment you tell someone, look over there, they look up and almost like wake up for the first time and they're like, it looks like a fucking frat party was here last night. But yet they never noticed that entire existence while they were going through. It's like this whole weird like psychological shift in their head. Like, whoa, look at all these fucking beer cans. Is this my life? Like there is that initial like, oh shit moment when someone wakes up and realizes, whoa. And I'm sure you've seen it as well when someone wakes up and you're like, wow, this place is like a fucking party.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about PTSD is my thing. Because if I can recover from this, anybody can. Absolutely anybody can. And we're not putting that message out there. And so my goal is to tell your dads who are watching, well, not your dad, but dads, your dad audience, your dadfluencers, which I love that term, by the way, because being a dad is the ultimate influencer. And too many of us as veterans are not coming home. We're redeploying, we're going back to our families, but we're not coming home, we're not present. And we need the no shit guide to know how to do that.
You're talking about the genesis of this moment. So Military Influencer Conference 2018, I had an itch for a podcast, but didn't really believe I was the guy to do it. And I told my story to a military spouse and she started crying. And I was like, what just happened? And I realized that she told me that her husband came home from war, but didn't emotionally come home and is just on autopilot on the couch. And what I said resonated so deeply that I was like, I've got to do this. And 3 months later is when I launched.
I really value you saying that. PTSD there are so many components to it. And one of the major criteria we've already touched on a little bit is this idea of avoidance. So think about, what's the best way to explain this? Like, think about your feelings as a continuum. So you've got this, this continuum along the line. And over here, you've got these feelings that you don't want to feel. So I've got feelings of shame and anger and hate and guilt. And then you kind of go through the continuum, you get to this middle phase, these kind of medium feelings, this numb, I feel, okay, ambivalence. Then over here, you've got all these great feelings. I feel good. I feel happy. I feel joy. I feel rainbows and sprinkles and unicorns and shit. And the idea with PTSD is it is the most logical mental health disorder there is, because PTSD is it's not something wrong with you. It is something that happens to you. Something that happens to you. It is a very logical reaction to a very abnormal set of circumstances. And so one of the most logical things that our brain does is it decides, you know what? I don't feel all these shitty feelings over here. Because who the fuck does? Who wants to feel shame and guilt and remember their buddy dying, or remember their asshole commander who always wanted to go outside the wire, or, remember their redeployment?
I didn't have friends, not because of PTSD, because I had a high school girl that said no, and my brain said, let's fucking avoid that for a while. And meaningless, that was 15 years later. I was still avoiding people because I didn't want to feel that rejection again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't have to be, like, we often think it has to be these devastating things, but I had PTSD from virtual school for 2 months. Like, there's these massive shifts of growing up that happen that create these experiences that you got to work through. And luckily I was hopeful enough to embrace it versus running from it or even going into a depression. But anything like could oftentimes be that PTSD moment. And I'm sure have you heard it phrased as post-traumatic growth disorder? Have you heard
I
that
have, I
phrase?
don't buy it. I think post-traumatic growth, not disorder, but post-traumatic growth. I don't like the term, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I don't like who it came from. It came from Martin Seligman, who created a program for the Army called Master Resiliency Theory. Well, here's the problem with master resiliency. There were really unintended second and third order effects. And one of the things that came out from that, and this is just me as one therapist. You've seen, probably like 1,000 clients with PTSD. So it is what it is. But there are so many rumors that come with PTSD. And one of the most persistent rumors that was an unintended second order effect from master resiliency theory was if somebody has PTSD, that means that they're not resilient enough. They're not resilient enough. There's something wrong with them because they weren't able to adapt and overcome and have this post-traumatic growth that we should have. And that's not a thing. That's not a thing. And I won't go into that, but in my book, if you're ever interested, there's a lot of very, very divisive research on master resiliency theory, and I'm not a fan. But moreover, another unintended third order effect here was this idea that was kind of promulgated as a result of this, saying that, if somebody goes through this training and then they still have PTSD, they can't adjust to seeing their buddies' brains blown out in front of them, then that must mean that they were fucked up before they got to the military. And brother, I have heard this from commanders. I've heard it from other psychologists, doctors, therapists like me. I mean, I've heard these rumors far and wide, and there was just no research to support that. So yes, I've heard of post-traumatic growth, and I think it's more damaging than good.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I never heard someone say it against it. And let me maybe removing the title of it. This is how I always framed it in my head. So I want to kind of, maybe you can educate me and help me understand where I need to reframe it. It was always like you experience in a short amount of time, like 5 minutes, you experience 40 years of life that most people take 50 years to experience. You experience in 5 minutes. And your brain is just so overwhelmed with trying to process all that new information, it psychologically just locks it out to try to process it. So you just try to avoid that area. But it's really about trying to look at it, find purpose in it, go through it. I often equate it to like a 1,000-piece Snap-on toolbox, a lot of specialized wrenches in that 5 minutes. And you don't really know what they're for, but 20 years down the road, like you find that one wrench, you're like, oh man, that was that one wrench that I learned in that the big PTSD moment. You just don't realize how it's all kind of just preparing you for something bigger. And it's about finding that purpose within that 5-minute experience that usually takes 50 years to experience. Is that incorrect? And I just labeled it wrong with PTSD or post-traumatic growth disorder?
Well, for post-traumatic growth, I won't really speak to that. I'm not a fan. I think it's more harm than good. I think I like the way that you described, in 5 minutes, a lot can go down in 5 minutes that may take 50 years to unpack. And that certainly is a lot of service members' experience. Trauma is defined, in the DSM, that's kind of the big purple book that should be on every therapist's shelf. And if it's not, you need to run. You need to run away because that's not okay. So the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, there's a very narrow definition of trauma. They call it actual or threatened exposure to death, serious injury, or sexual violence. So again, death, serious injury, or sexual violence, actual or threatened exposure. So let's say, for example, you're on the FOB and every day you go out on a convoy, okay? Now, you're a smart cookie. You listen to your S2 and you know that convoys get schwacked every fucking day. Every day. So a lot of things happen when you leave the wire. So your brain gets ready for one of three things: fight, flight, freeze. This is your body and brain's very natural reaction to a threat: fight, flight, freeze. And what the military does is it tries to train the freeze out of us. So I'm up, they see me, I'm down. I'm up. They see me, I'm down. This is why we do so many movement exercises. This is why, and you're a Marine. You've been down this road.
Yeah, I had PTSD just from you saying I'm up. He sees me, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I remembered how much I sucked at playing that game.
Yeah. But the idea is we want to train the freeze out of somebody so that they can call in a perfect 9 line when your buddy gets schwacked or somebody loses a leg and they're going to bleed out. We want to train the freeze out of you. But so when we're leaving the wire, our body and our brain gets ready. And a lot of things start happening. Our heart starts beating. And that's to move all the blood to our muscles because fight, flight, and freeze take a tremendous amount of energy. All of our muscles start to tense up. Our eyes start to dilate. Our frontal lobes are responsible for reason and logic. Those fuckers just shut down. Why? Because we're not going to Disney, bitch. We are no shit getting ready for war. You're not needing to take snapshots. That's why we have very significant, a lot of people who have PTSD have very significant memory loss when it comes to their trauma, or they don't remember large chunks of their deployment. Folks who are survivors of childhood trauma often don't remember huge chunks of their childhood. And that's because your brain has 2 jobs, brother. Number 1, keep you alive. And that is his first and number 1 job. I say he, my brain's a he. Maybe you lucked out. I didn't. Number 2, your brain's job is to make meaning whether you have all the information or not. I say again, to make meaning whether you have all the information or not. So when you leave the wire, your body and your brain is getting ready to get schwacked. And then you don't get schwacked. Your convoy never blows up. Lucky you. Then we come back and we say all things like, oh, well, I don't deserve to have PTSD because my kid has a father now. I don't deserve to have PTSD because I have my legs. And one of the biggest lies that I have to overcome and educate folks on, it's just a lie, is that this idea that I don't deserve to have PTSD. And I'm like, bitch, I don't deserve to have flu. I don't deserve to have the flu. I'm charming as fuck. I'm really nice. I'm a good therapist. I help people. I have great neighbors, right? I don't deserve to have the flu. But guess what doesn't give a fuck? The flu. The flu doesn't care. HIV doesn't care. Coronavirus doesn't care. PTSD doesn't care whether you deserve it or not. So that's why we have that actual or threatened exposure. So whether you leave the wire and you get schwacked or you leave the wire every day and you don't, your body and your brain are reacting the exact same way to trauma. And so some people can adjust and a lot of us can't. And that's totally okay. And it takes an adjustment period after that. I hope that answers your question. Maybe I just took you off topic. It definitely
answers my question. So the one I've kind of got, since you were talking about that in the way you did, it reminded me of something that dads get haunted with, like, why did I live and he died? Or they get hung up on, what did all of that shit just mean? And it's trying to figure out what was the legacy of their service. And one of my bigger theses of this whole podcast is most veterans get stuck in that thought versus switching to, oh, my legacy is actually my family. Once it's over, the shit's in the history books and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. And trying to figure out what it meant has no greater purpose in it whatsoever. You're not going to get any good questions from those loops that you keep running in your head. And I always say to dads, like, your best friend didn't come home so you could come home and be the best fucking dad you could be. But you have to know this stuff to go through it, to be that kid, to be that dad. There's a dad out there that never gets to feel his father's or his kid's love again. You do. And you've got to go through that and all this focus on the legacy of their service and what it all meant and this macho stuff. Like, your only thing that matters once you're home is your family. Like, that's what's going to be generational. No one's going to remember your record Nate label in the military. Maybe if you get a Medal of Honor or something, but most times you're just a number within the books. Once it's over, it's over. But we get so stuck on that. So I'm wondering, when the dad gets stuck in that, where do you usually take him to try to get him into that switch of, like, wake up?
I don't try to get folks into a switch to wake up. So, I know that some people are really, very motivated and can move on. There's a shade of moral injury, though. I mean, there's a shade of PTSD that we don't talk about a lot. And it's moral injury. And this is one of those research topics that the first time I read it, I'll never forget it. So this is research that's done by Brett Litz, absolutely brilliant researcher out of the VA and in Boston, Massachusetts. And I think he massed Boston also, or no, Boston U. Anyway, to make a long story longer, moral injury is very different than PTSD. So with moral injury, moral injury is really, it's soul damage. I want to kind of explain, I want to unpack that a little bit. So PTSD is the body and the brain's very natural reaction to feeling unsafe, But moral injury is a different flavor. So it's the result of experiences that when somebody violates our fundamental moral code. And that is very different. So I want to unpack that. So with moral injury, according to Brett Litz in his research, there are 3 categories of moral injury. So we have combat loss. That's when we lose a buddy downrange. And then we have perpetration. So this is kind of war crimes, which are unfortunately much more widespread than any of us talk about. War crimes happen across the services, across gender and gender identities, across MOSs. And there's a lot of war crimes, things that would be considered war crimes by the Geneva Convention that are going on. And we witness them or, we commit them, and we need to talk about this. So those are acts of omission, commission, things we wish we'd done, things we should not have done. And then we have leadership betrayal, which happens a lot, unfortunately, downrange. So that's the idea of, that one commander who always seems to be a major who is going outside the wire every chance he gets because he hopes to get shot at so he can get a combat action ribbon. And, those 3 areas of moral injury, we have a lot of good research about them, and they really can challenge our fundamental core values. And unfortunately, those aren't as easy to unpack as saying, just get the fuck over it. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I want to be super clear. I'm not that guy. But there, a lot of folks do. A lot of folks do. And especially, when it comes to, these transgressive acts. So when somebody violates our acceptable boundaries of behavior, that really fucks with us, especially when we come back home.
I could see it like the moment that popped in my head was if you had to take the life of a child that had a vest on that was getting ready to blow himself up and kill people around him. Like that was even justified and violates every fiber of your being that was wrong.
Yeah. There's a lot of research, and it probably wouldn't surprise you to know that somebody like me designed your boot camp. If you ever read On Killing by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, it's a really classic text because he does a good job of talking about all of the training and everything that goes into teaching a Marine, teaching a soldier, teaching a service member how to overcome their very natural instinct that's, billions of years of evolution not to kill another human being. These are things that we see in pit bulls and cocks and things that are bred to kill their own species. This is very unnatural, and so what Dave Grossman talks about and his book's fucking brilliant. Just even the idea of changing, after World War II, they were studying a lot about, how do we get people to kill people so we can save ammo? Because it all comes down to cost. Well, it used to. So what they did is they changed, instead of doing target practice with a bullseye, they started having human targets. Depending on where you went to boot, maybe you were one of those kids, running around with the target, behind the berm. Depends on how old you are. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but it used to be. And, so they're human-shaped targets. The way we dehumanize the enemy. We're not talking about shooting a dad or shooting a kid. We're talking about shooting the enemy. There's a lot of, the military is working right now on its white supremacy problem. And, writ large, we, dehumanizing the enemy and using racial slurs or whatever it takes, that's That's part of it. And the hard part about that is who joins the service? I mean, they call it the service for a reason, brother. Like a lot of folks joined after 9/11, really we want to serve our country. Again, nobody becomes a podcaster or a soldier or a Marine for the money or the fame. That's not a thing. You're doing it to change the world. We're idealistic. And we learn all of these amazing things in boot camp and in basic training, all of these values. Never leave a friend behind. Follow the Geneva Conventions, follow the rules of engagement. Bring your buddies home. And it's simple and it's pure and it's important and what makes us fucking love each other. But when bullets are flying and shit hits the fan and it's wild, wild west, there's nothing simple or pure about that. And it's really difficult for a lot of us to take what we do in combat and then right size that for when we go home. So yeah, you're shooting unarmed civilians. And we have to sometimes. That's, and let me tell you, brother, I primarily traffic in war crimes. So I work with a lot of folks in special communities, and I happen to be one of the folks in the US who does that. I work with folks who've either witnessed or committed war crimes. I mean, that's not something you put on your website, but here we are. How do we then come home and hold our child? How do we?
I mean, that just creates like a guilt almost feeling that rises up that like you don't feel like you deserve this moment because of that internal punishment. There was the thought that I'm wondering, I feel like it's going to be true, so I'm just kind of curious where it comes. So one of my core philosophies that I say that the Marine Corps taught me that I try to live my life by is you won't die in the battlefield of life by the big things. You're going to die because you missed the small things. Just like in war, it's that little tripwire that you're getting ready to clear the room, not the thing above, whatever, mile ahead. It's that little tripwire you didn't pay attention to. So it's those details. And I can imagine when you're in therapy with these soldiers and Marines and everyone, that it's those little details that are probably the tip of the iceberg of these bigger things. Do you find that like it's the little and it's almost subconscious, so you have a hard time identifying what is little and what's big because it probably feels you probably put it all in one big bucket and you don't really know which is small and which is big. Do you find that like the same thing about little things within this idea of PTSD and moving through it?
There are a lot of little things that can fuck with us. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine, of course. Yeah, I think what you learned is correct. I think one of the things that I see a lot with my clients and this idea of moral injury, I think we talk a lot about the fear, and we don't talk a lot about shame. Guilt and shame, guilt, I did something wrong, I hurt your feelings, I kicked a kitten, I robbed a bank. We can make amends. Shame is I am something wrong. There is something fundamentally fucked with me. There's something wrong with me because only a monster would fill in the blank. Only an animal would fill in the blank. And, PTSD, it really fucks with our fundamental belief system. That's actually one of the criteria. It really fucks with our fundamental belief system about ourselves, other people, and the world. And in one of the evidence-based treatments, we call them stuck points. A lot of stuck points will come up. And it really fucks with us in 5 fundamental ways. So in trusting myself. How do I trust myself? How do I trust others? How do I trust a leader if I've had this kind of, experience? How do I trust somebody? Power, control. If somebody has power over me, does that mean that they're going to abuse it? Safety. How can I feel safe? Is the world a safe place anymore? Can I be safe in my intimate relationships? Intimacy. And this goes beyond sex. But certainly, we know that libido, is definitely affected by PTSD. But intimate relationships, how can we be close with someone? How can I trust myself to be close with someone if I believe I'm just going to betray them? And then and again, that's our belief system and self-esteem. How is it I feel about myself? How is it I feel about other people? And, we do a lot of focus, I think, on PTSD, but I think we don't focus on moral injury enough and kind of the full out. I think you do a good job about talking about this in your platform too, Ben. Kind of this full out, and I don't want to get too woo woo, but kind of this soul damage and this sort of, it can be a real all out existential crisis. What is the meaning for all this shit? And you cover that, just a minute ago, why did my buddy die? It's really, it's hard to say, well, he was a hero and, they were a hero and they did it for their country. And then you're like, really the fuck what? Really? It's because my fucking fat ass major just wanted to get a piece of ribbon. Napoleon famously said that men will do anything for a piece of cloth. He's talking about ribbons that people wear. People do some really fucked up shit for glory. And the further away from the flagpole we are, the more fucked up things can get. So we see a lot of rape in the battlefield. We see things. We see indiscriminate killing. We see a lot of bullying. We might see a leader, for example, bullying a subordinate so badly that they commit suicide. That happens. And then here's the thing. How do we, as the service member, how do we right-size that when we get home? It's really hard to say, okay, I'm one person in the field and I'm another person at home. But are we? And so we start distancing ourselves. And that goes back to this idea of, the continuum with our feelings. We're trying to avoid all these feelings over here. And the idea is we don't want to feel the guilt and the shame and the fear and the anger. We just want to feel middle feelings and all these like happy feelings. But the brain doesn't work that way. That's, kind of to really oversimplify neuroscience. So if things aren't in a continuum when it comes to our feelings, it attenuates on both ends in equal measure. Think of it like an accordion. So if I'm avoiding all the shit on this side, all these feelings I don't want to feel, what happens is I can't feel all these feelings over here. So now all of a sudden I'm not able to feel joy. I'm not able to feel happiness. My son or daughter will come up to me with a legitimate concern. And I know that they have every right to be upset, but I can't empathize with them. I can't feel them. Maybe I even think to myself, what the fuck are you crying for? And then I think, what kind of monster says that? That's my child crying.
And then you just proved the inner thought true, and then you just continued to add. You know what? You when you were doing the accordion analogy, there was something that I had to learn the hard way in my own life, that you can't unconditionally love the others in your life until you unconditionally love yourself. But there's a clause to that it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you don't get those three down, to lug all three of those, your accordion, your capacity to give love is limited because you've limited how much of your own life you've actually had the capacity to love.
When somebody goes through PTSD treatment, what we do is we're intentionally leaning into the shitty thoughts, the shit we don't want to feel. And what happens, is that this expands also. We become able again to feel that. But until that happens, we're in that middle space called numb. And it's an absolutely terrifying place to be, because what will happen in this numb place, and we know we're numb, even when we don't have the words for what's going on, we know something's fucked. We know something's wrong. We might not know what it is. We might not have the word, but we know that we're not feeling anything. We go to, we're not feeling joy. We're not feeling sad. We just feel numb. And we might start asking ourselves things like, am I a psychopath? Maybe we listen to way too much like murder porn, too many like murder podcasts. And we're like, am I a psychopath? You're not. If you're asking that question, you're not.
Or Criminal Minds on Netflix. That's dangerous. So I had to stop watching it because I was like, I'm having nightmares going to bed thinking someone's going to jump into my bedroom and slash my throat.
Legit. That numb place is really terrifying place to be. And this is where suicide comes in, because what will happen to us is we're in a numb place. And, here's your trigger warning for your audience. This shit won't tickle, but you probably need to hear it. And while it sounds like I don't have feelings, I promise you I'm saying this with a lot of love and compassion. It's broke. So what happens when we're in this numb place? And I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about me. I'll own it. So I'm not reading anybody's mail. Calm the fuck down. Okay. So we're in this middle, really numb place here. And what will happen is we get this idea. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll commit suicide. And we feel something. Don't necessarily feel good or feel bad, but we feel something. We feel something. And our brain registers that. And it's like, okay, I've been in this middle numb phase for a really long time, but now I feel something. And that must be good because the opposite is being a fucking psychopath. So what happens a lot of times, or what happened to me, I'll own it, is starting to think about suicide, using the thought of suicide as a coping mechanism. Some real shit talk, okay? We're just thinking about, we tell ourselves, and we'll tell our therapists, or we'll tell our friends, yeah, I would never do it. I'm just thinking about it. And we fantasize about it because it's fun. Because just like any other coping mechanism, it works. Can we just get real for a minute? Drugs and alcohol work. Otherwise, people wouldn't drink and do drugs. Okay, thinking about suicide works. You know, if I can get rid of my problems, if all my problems are one swallow away, of course I'm going to jump in a bottle. It's why most of us do. Most common, what we call co-occurring disorder, PTSD, is alcohol abuse. Another story for another day. So we just start thinking about, we start fantasizing, how am I going to schwack myself? How would I do it? What's the least violent way? Who am I going to make my last Facebook post to? Who's going to show up at my funeral? Who do I want to tell, fuck you, before I schwack myself? You know, what do I want to write in my letter? Maybe we'll even type out a letter. Maybe we'll go ahead and look and see if our insurance covers suicide. And we tell ourselves, brother, we're like, oh, I'm just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. And what I need you to hear with love, because this sucks, is this. When we are thinking about suicide and we're using suicide as a coping mechanism, we're on a knife's edge. We're on a knife's edge, and we're a lot closer than what we think. And I'll tell you why. So every single one of us is going to have an experience where our situation overwhelms our skills. And we call that life. It is what it is. And when we're drinking, when we're drugging, especially, and we get to a point where maybe our buddy commits suicide. We see all those fucking Facebook posts on Memorial Day, whatever the fuck. All of a sudden, our brain will snap, hey, I know it's a really good idea. And it happens like that. And that's what I need. It's what I need to express. It's what I would want everyone to know. If there's one thing I would tell you, it's that suicide happens fucking fast.
Yeah, like there's only like 10 minutes between like having it and doing it. And like that's why it's so critical even just to interrupt it and like to delay it, because you make it take 30, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the data support that. Data are very clear that, yeah, giving it more time, calling the crisis line, talking to a buddy, whatever. But this happens fast. I had a job before this PCS where I responded a lot to, we had a murder-suicide problem. So I would respond to units where there was a murder, suicide, or where there was a suicide. And that's, unfortunately, and we were talking before the show, you know, there's probably not anyone listening to this right now who hasn't lost more buddies to suicide than they have to combat. It's just, it is what it is.
I mean, the hardest part about this podcast is I have Google alerts set up for these types of things. And I read these articles and hearing that there's 3 kids being left behind. And since the war is winding down, it doesn't happen as much. But every time someone would die overseas through combat, I would always look them up and I would always memorialize them on the podcast. And I can't do that with suicide because there's just so many and I don't actually see them all. But man, I remember in Starbucks just bawling my eyes out because emotionally, like the toll, I probably am morally like scarred from it as well, from just reading these stories and realizing like, man, and the part that I've learned when I've interviewed a couple of military spouses that have lost their husbands to suicide is, and this is the part that I always tell dads, you think you're stopping the pain. Like this is the solution to prevent the burden to your family. But all you do is pass it on and scar them in a way that's deeper than yours. It's not even their pain. They don't understand it. And the other question that I've learned doing this podcast with dads is the kids are haunted with this question. Why didn't my dad love me enough to stay? And they never get the answer. And then they think they're not worthy enough because my dad just took his own life. I must have been pretty bad.
And I would encourage anybody listening to this right now to go back and listen to that podcast that you did with that military spouse. That was, I was not okay. It was.
Really, oh, you listened to that one?
Oh, fuck yeah. That was
awful. Yeah, that was, I learned a hard lesson. Don't do hard episodes. This one's pretty okay, but that one, I had a hard time going to bed. I recorded it about 8:00 at night, and I had an emotional toll that I was like, I should have did that during the day.
Brother, that was powerful, though. It was powerful, and I really honor your effort to be true and to be authentic. It was awesome. And a stat I'll lie down for you is that when someone commits suicide, a parent commits suicide, their children are 6 times more likely to commit suicide. I'm going to say that again for the folks in the back. Your children are 6 times more likely to commit suicide themselves. So, I often encourage the folks with whom I work to say, imagine feeling 6 times as shitty as you do right now. And do you really want to pass that on? No, fuck no. You love your kids. And the thing that I've learned in talking with both folks who tried to commit suicide and they didn't. So I'll start with them. So if you try to commit suicide and for whatever reason it doesn't work, here's what usually happens. You go to jail. And that's not because you're a bad person. It's just because it is highly likely that the first people who are going to respond is the PD. And their job is to get you safe. You will end up in a cell by yourself on suicide watch. You're going to end up in something called a turtle suit, which is a one-piece smock that is stitched together. And it looks like the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But there's no strings on it, so you can't take it, you can't choke on it, you can't kill yourself with it. And you end up in jail on suicide watch. And then you get to talk to someone like me. And the first thing that I hear, if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. It's Virginia, it happened so fast. It happened so fast. Before I knew it, the bottle of pills were gone. Before I knew it, my kid walked in on me and I was tying a noose. Before I knew it, the SWAT team showed up and I saw the little dots on my chest. Before I knew it, my spouse walked in on me and the gun was in my mouth. This goes fast. This goes fast, fast, fast. Before I knew it. And I want to say again, we don't know our judgment is impaired when our judgment is impaired. When we're suicidal, we are literally not in our right mind. And that's not to shame anyone who's been suicidal. Fuck, I've been suicidal. If that hurts your feelings, fuck you. Okay? Literally not in my right mind.
Really, with anything, I always tell everybody that I talk to, whether it be coach or no matter what, you always have to remember to where whoever you're approaching, to them, this is the most rational thought they've ever had. It doesn't matter whether it's pure lunacy. It is the most rational thought that they've ever had. Like, this is how the world works. This is exactly what needs to happen. And it's just as straight as 2 + 2. Like, that's as perfect as they see it. And for us, as rational, like that's also where the judgment kind of almost shames it more, is you say, well, that's a stupid thought. That's irrational. Like, why would you fucking think like that? Well, for him, like, he thought that was as rational as it could be. And so that almost just kind of suppresses it even more. Like, man, I really must be this fucking monster.
Legit. You do a really good job in your podcast. I listened to one of your podcasts about suicide, and I really like that you normalized that and you talked a lot about that. Because we joined the service. They call it the fucking service for a reason. So we're telling ourselves that, my family would be better off without me. I remember thinking to myself, my husband's going to have a wife who needs to be hospitalized. What kind of, I want my husband to be able to have a normal wife who maybe wants kids or some shit. I hate kids. I don't have 2 kids, but it maybe, that's what I told myself, that I'm doing it for him. And so you're right. And PTSD is unbelievably logical. The number one thing that I would hear from the people left behind, so I'm talking family members, battle buddies, chain of command, when I would go is, man, you know what, I knew Ben was doing, I knew Ben was struggling, but it really seemed like he was doing better. I saw him around recently. He seemed like he was doing
it's usually always
better.
that, it's like when people get ready to die from cancer, they always get like a 2-day last minute poof of energy before it actually ends up taking their life.
Legit. A big reason for that, though, is because when we're using suicide as a coping mechanism, on the outside, we look like we're doing better. We really do.
Yeah, it's really a universal lie that it can really argue anything rationally. Like that, it really is a universal lie that fits almost everything that you could ask it. Like, does it pass that test? Yeah. Does it pass this test? Yeah. Wow, this is a really good idea.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't know this, but the movie Inside Out is very much based on the psychological brain of the little characters inside this girl's head.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
They put a light bulb in the panel to run away, and once it's in, they can't get the light bulb out. And it takes sadness in order to touch the light bulb for her to feel sad for the first time to get that light bulb out. But it's that idea. Once it's in, it's just like that. Man, this is how it works.
Yeah.
All the other emotions can't access it except sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're, with moral injury, we see a lot more, we see a lot more self-harm. So I'm talking about what we call non-suicidal self-injury. So cutting, scraping, picking. We see a lot more poor self-care. We see decreased empathy, a lot of self-loathing. We see a lot more self-condemning thoughts, a lot more internal suffering. And when it comes to moral injury, kind of unlike PTSD, these are the things that we can't talk about. So, like, for example, in my book, I talk a lot about war crimes. And it's really important that the first thing I would want people to know is if they've experienced something horrific, whether they, unfortunately, something that comes up a lot in my practice is the idea of the dancing boys in Afghanistan. Okay. And you're a dad, so you get this, we're told not to interfere because, while these warlords are raping children and they're screaming for their fathers, and we hear them on our base because, well, it's part of their culture and we just need to let that ride. The fuck what?
Yeah, that just doesn't compute for, and then it goes again, what you're talking, that moral code, that code of the soul, that especially a lot of the people that serve the country come from like me, I was from southern Wisconsin, grew up on a farm, like that, just I was a very innocent kid going into that. I never went to Afghanistan or Iraq, but man, if I did, I can only imagine how much that would have just conflicted with. I had a very kind of just plain view of the world and a very safe view of the world. Like I was the first one in my family to have a passport, and then just see different things like it. That just changes you, like what you've talked about through this interview. It adds an insight and a view, and it creates like what you also probably speak to is this rational model that you create of how you see the world. That when you experience things that don't fit into that, it's like this virus trying to knock on the door and try to get in. You want to try to block it out, but you can't, and it just eventually kind of works its way in, and then it just kind of just takes it over. And it's how you rationalize to see the world before and after that is probably something that creates that dichotomy that you have to work through. I want to go into a different area because one of the parts that you talked about in the beginning, and I want to go back there and hit because it really seemed interesting to me, and I want to make sure I can bring some value to it. You talk about the solution is something from the inside out. And so part of what I've really learned is actually this feeling of home is actually something that all men have been looking for, but they've been looking for in buildings, careers, and status, and uniforms, and ribbons. But it's actually a feeling that they've been looking for their entire life, but it has to come from the inside. And I'm actually thinking there's probably a little bit of what you have to do in order to bring them home is understanding that this feeling they're looking for is actually something that comes from the inside out. So I'm wondering, within your process to move through PTSD and actually like get beyond it, what actually is that component that comes from within that is something that maybe most people aren't even thinking to utilize as a superpower to get through this?
That's a deep question.
You've provided deep answers, so I'm ready. I'm positive. I have full confidence that you have something already locked, loaded, and ready in your barrel to fire on this question and answer.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I don't fuck that one up, because it's a great question. I think it's important not just to process trauma, but also to process its meaning. What does it mean? Who does this make me? And fortunately, we do have evidence-based treatments. And when I say something's an evidence-based treatment, I want to kind of put that into context.
You're using the purple book with that, yeah. I'm purple book that one.
Yeah, thanks, bro. So an evidence-based treatment, so we think about the vaccine is probably the most, salient example that's coming up right now. So when we test a vaccine or we test a new medicine, what will happen is the new medicine, it'll go through these double-blind studies. It'll go through these clinical trials, and we take a look at it, and we test it over a very long period of time, what we call a longitudinal study. So these studies will go on decades. And the reason is because we want to make sure that the drug works. We want to make sure the vaccine works before we, give it to everybody. And we want to make sure that there are no side effects, that it actually works, that it does what it's supposed to do, and it works for the long haul. And we're not just, our ears aren't going to fall off, or our teeth aren't going to fall out, or whatever the fuck, later on down the line. And so these double-blind studies are really important. And so what happens in therapy when we're talking about seeing a therapist is we actually have these exact same double-blind studies, these longitudinal studies for decades with PTSD, with moral injury. So we are testing, then they're called evidence-based treatments, meaning that they've been, someone came up with it, they tested it, they wrote it down, they wanted to make sure that it could be repeated. Groups of scientists, thousands of service members, go through this, and we want to make sure that it works, and it works for the long haul. And for something to be evidence-based, it's not a small deal. That means, just take the Pareto rule, 80-20. This no shit works 80% of the time. 80% of the time. So here's the thing with an evidence-based treatment. If I had an 80% chance of winning the lottery, I'd fucking play. I'd also play if I had a 20% chance to win in the lottery. So let's get real there. So when it comes to evidence-based treatments, we got 3 of them that are approved by the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs. So we have prolonged exposure, cognitive processing therapy, and something called EMDR. So Echo Mike Delta Romeo. So eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Big words. But here's the deal with that. They work for PTSD. They work most of the time. So let's say you go in and you try course of action 1 and it doesn't work. You're an outlier. You're a 20%er. Not a big fucking deal, because 20% is a huge number. Go to COA 2, go to COA 3. If we're trying 3 different evidence-based treatments and it's not bringing your symptoms down with clinical significance, like you're not reclaiming your life in 8 to 10 sessions, because that's all these fucking take. So we work in a managed care system. So if it's not 8 to 10, fucking get lost, right? Because insurance won't pay for it. Then, you could have what we call treatment-resistant PTSD, which we have a whole other list of EBTs, evidence-based treatments for. Or you don't have PTSD. You might have moral injury. You might have just bad depression or panic disorder, anything else. But I think it's important, and especially with the no shit facts, I think it's important to know what the evidence-based treatments are so we can ask for them by name. So let's say you got a fucking tumor, bro. You go to your PCM, you're going to want a referral to an oncologist. If you got a weird rash, depending on where it is, you're going to go see a dermatologist. You want to go to a specialist. And it's the same thing with PTSD. People are super niche when it comes to therapists. For example, I do PTSD and moral injury. That's really all I do well. If I'm being for real and honest, I can do a bunch of other shit and I can half-ass it. And my knowledge is PowerPoint deep. The best I'm going to do if you have an eating disorder, super common with PTSD, especially for men. One of the most common co-occurring disorders, eating disorders, binge eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia, is that I can get you in the right direction, but I'm not your guy. But if you got PTSD, go to a PTSD specialist, ask for the evidence-based treatment by name. Otherwise, you're going to be fucking around talking about your mommy and attachment issues, and don't fuck around with this. If you've got cancer, stop going to your fucking PCM. Go get a fucking biopsy. Get that shit, clean it out. Same thing with PTSD. Same thing with moral injury. We have adaptive disclosure. And that's why, so for your listeners, I would encourage them, definitely go to thesoldiersguide.com. I put the first 2 chapters of my book in there because for free, because I want folks to be able to recognize their symptoms. Because when you can recognize your symptom, you can get an evidence-based treatment. Stop fucking around. It is important to get an evidence-based treatment for your PTSD. Get something that works. Why are you going to sit around and talk about, and I sound like an asshole probably, but I am sort of an asshole. But, you're going to be talking about your feelings or, talking about, your family of origin issues. And if you've got those, great. Go work on those after you've worked on your PTSD. But if you need to know shit, reclaim your life because your PTSD is keeping you from being a father. Your PTSD is keeping you from being a husband. It's keeping you from getting a job. It's keeping you from sleeping at night. You're suicidal all the time. Get the help that you deserve. Don't fuck around. Go, no shit, reclaim your life and ask by name for that evidence-based treatment. And I realize I'm really trying to beat a drum here. There's nothing harder in my line of work than seeing one of my PTSD vet brothers, like a Vietnam vet or sisters. We've got incredible women who served in that conflict. They come and they get their they've been in treatment, in and out of treatment their whole lives. And then they do an evidence-based treatment. And this happened just last month with a client I had. So this hits me in the feels. This guy's fucking 80, man. And for the first time in his life, he is seeing himself the way other people see him and not for the monster he believed he was. And he's already been through 3 wives. His kids won't talk to him. It's like that train left the station. And he's, chronic suicidality, what we call chronic PTSD. We have evidence-based treatment for chronic PTSD. Chronic PTSD, compound PTSD, that's not a death sentence. But that is a rumor out there that is so fucking wrong. And where I hear that rumor, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little pissed off. But I hear that rumor from other so-called fucking experts on PTSD, from other clinicians, that, if you have PTSD, you're just going to have it for the rest of your life. No shit, there I was. True story. I'm in an inpatient environment. And I worked on a team, sorry for the war story, but I worked on a team that was really worked with kind of these hard to crack cases, what we call a multidisciplinary team. So we all get together and we're like, how do we unfuck?
Like the house for clinicians.
Yeah, but we're not really entertaining and probably not that smart.
Or probably that rude.
I don't know. We're pretty bad. We're a pretty salty fucking bunch. But we all come together and had this client. I'll never forget her my whole life. Navy, extreme trauma, military sexual trauma survivor, incredibly intelligent. being med boarded out of the military against her will. And she had gone through the three evidence-based treatments that most places offer for PTSD. And she was an outlier. But we didn't determine that she had something really, I was like, okay, there's something not right here. There's something off. And so I did a clinical interview with her. And I asked her what I call the big two. So there are two big questions that we have to be able to answer that only we can answer for ourselves. We can't answer from anyone else. And that's, do you believe change is possible? Do you believe it's possible that you could reduce your PTSD symptoms and be the best dad that you can be? Do you believe it's possible that you could reduce your PTSD symptoms and ask your dad on the playground for his number? Not asking you if you can do it or you're going to go out and do it today. I'm just asking if it's possible. And most people are like, oh yeah, Virginia, I could wake up tomorrow. The sky could be green and the grass could be blue. Anything could be possible. Man, all right, fuck you, got it. Then the second question is, do you believe it's possible? Are you willing to do it? Do you want to get better? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? So I asked those questions and I said, clinical interview with this woman, because she worked harder than her peers. She was smarter than her peers. And I was like, girl, real talk. Do you believe it's possible that you could reduce your symptoms and get to a point where you can function and stay in the military? And dead ass, she looked right at me. She said, well, no, I know that's not possible. I said, the fuck what? Tell me more. That's therapist code for it. The fuck what? Tell me more. She says, well, my psychiatrist on base, who was active duty military, by the way, my psychiatrist on base told me that, I'll be able to reduce my symptoms and I might start feeling better for a while. But in the end, PTSD, I'm just going to end up killing myself because there's no cure for PTSD. That's what
the therapist told her?
No shit, bro. I had the first time I went to seek help, I had a therapist no shit tell me that he couldn't help me because I was being untruthful because women aren't in combat. The fuck what? And that didn't end well. That's another war story for another day. But yeah, the therapist told her that.
You resonated so much there in a couple different ways. And one story that I haven't told in a while, I don't know if I've ever told it, is way back when I still considered I sucked at doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. It was November of 2019. I was just wrapping up a year. I had started experimenting with a lot of illicit drugs, but not really drugs, but just doing solo podcast episodes to see what they would do. And I found out I liked them. And it was like my second one. And I didn't think anything of it. And I get this email from the university. I rarely get like long emails from the podcast. And this Vietnam veteran listened to this episode, never heard of him, ever even heard of him since, never even knew who he was. He's like, 5 paragraphs writing, if I would have had this podcast 30 years ago, I would have been a better dad. And I felt like that was my level 1 advice on that episode that he referenced. And I was like,
winning.
Fuck.
Yeah.
30 years gone. And all he needed really probably was just permission to be dad. That was really what he was holding on to that he couldn't give himself to. And the other part that really reminded me is when I'm working or getting ready to close a coaching call and when I'm getting ready to get someone in my program, I've actually kind of had this analogy, and I'm actually a bookie because there's 2 choices. When someone says yes to accepting coaching, you're actually saying, I believe that I can be who you just said I could be. And if you're saying no, it's actually you're calling bullshit and you don't believe you're capable of doing any of the stuff that you think I got it 100% wrong. And you may dress it up with money issues, but it's 100% either yes, it's yes, I do believe I can be who you said I could be, or no, you're not. And it goes right to your questions of you can't create a change that doesn't come from, this is probably what we were leading in the big question in the beginning, maybe 10 minutes ago, is that feeling on the inside that believe, to me, that is a huge word that I've had to reuse. And my 2020 word was believe. And I picked that word before even 2020 started. And man, did that word get tested and tested. And the root where that word came into my mind was I needed to believe that I was capable of doing everything I needed. I just needed to believe that I had the resources already inside. It wasn't one more book. It wasn't one more podcast. It wasn't one more anything. The only thing holding me back was believing I've had everything I've always needed to be everything that I wanted. I just needed to believe that I could do it.
When you have that self-belief and you're armed with facts, you're really unstoppable. And I'm thinking back to this client, this woman, she believed all that, but she also believed a lie. After I picked up, myself off the floor because I shat myself, I was like, Jesus, God, help us. And I re-educated her on, and I showed her, and she's super analytical, super fucking smart. She's way above my level. And I gave her all the data, and I gave her articles to read. And in 2 weeks, she recalibrated herself, rediscovered herself. She stayed in the military. Her life has not been the same ever since, because she had that belief in herself, but then she also had the no shit facts. And because she had those two things, she was really able to reclaim her life. And,
it didn't take much. Like, once you reorientate that energy, I mean, there's so many things, like, because the first part I usually always check on different, like, fatherhood issues, because there's just so many limiting beliefs with dads that they live under the umbrella of how their father was. Mm-hmm. And I'll go somewhere. I was just chatting with this guy. I never even got to talk to him on the phone, and he was telling me a story, and I was like, do you ever feel like a 10-year-old boy waiting to be led by his father? And went silence, and like maybe 2 minutes he replied, fuck. And like that awakening moment, he realized what he was living and waiting for. And like, once you do that type of stuff, wait and get that new thought, new belief, and give them the idea like, oh, I don't have to believe that anymore. Like, I almost don't always believe the change that these clients are going through, because it's so quick. Once you reorientate the direction, the energy, give them some new truths to believe that aren't the old ones. I mean, people will probably, this is something you probably encounter, like, they come into you and they probably think they're subscribing for like a 6-month, like, intensive. And then you were like, no, it's fucking time for that. 10 times, and we can get this fucking thing taken care of. And even that probably holds people back from getting it, because they think it's this big long journey, because they've been told maybe it's a lifelong journey that you learn to live with. It's like a child that doesn't move out of your head. And overall, it's 8 to 10 times. And I do want to ask one question, because it's been a little bit too heavy, so I want to lighten it up. What evidence-based fucking treatment said Motrin and water cures everything? Because in my adult life, I have never been subscribed Motrin and water, but somewhere in the military hierarchy, they've done some probably evidence-based treatment that said Motrin and water solves everything. But yet, I can't believe that actually evidence-based treatment says Motrin and water solves everything. Do you have any evidence just to like help enlighten me why Motrin and water has this like fucking paradigm that it fixes everything but doesn't do anything?
I think it's only 800 milligram Motrin.
Okay.
Water. I mean, we have to
horse pill size stuff.
Yeah, we have to be super Pacific. Otherwise, we're being Atlantic. So, it's only 800 milligrams and luke cold water.
But it's even like that bullshit about Motrin and water that almost makes people believe that going to sickbay doesn't do anything. Like, it's that in itself is an oxymoron and a good joke, but it creates a disbelief that what medicine does in the military isn't something that can heal. That what is wrong with you is something always on the inside, and they're just going to give you Motrin and water to go back to work.
I love this topic, and I want to talk about drugs for a minute. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Because if I had a nickel for every time someone's like, hey, just give me a drug for my PTSD, oh my God, I'd have $5 or $6. I'd be loaded. That'd be awesome. So there is no drug treatment for PTSD. We do have drug treatments to reduce nightmares. We have drug treatments for anxiety, for depression, but not for PTSD. It's one of those things that we have to process. And if we have moral injury, we have to process the trauma and its meaning. But there, early on, especially in the VA system, which I do not represent in any way in this podcast, calm the fuck down. There were a lot of folks who got really hooked to opioids and who got hooked to all sorts of drugs because it helped them to feel better. And, that's a managed care system. We'll go, well, if you, it's a numbers game. A lot of managed care is just numbers. If you go to sick bay and you get a drug and then you don't come back, well, that obviously means that whatever you went for was cured by what we gave you. It doesn't mean that, oh shit, we've created an opioid addiction. There might not be, any looking further into that. But, I do want to be super clear that there is no medication solution for PTSD. If there were, that would be awesome. And because that's why a lot of us turn to drugs and alcohol, to be able to feel something. If my solution were a swallow away, why the fuck would I do 8 to 10 sessions of talking to someone? Yeah. When I don't really want to.
You know what you reminded me of? So you've done enough talking about boys. I'm going to talk about girls for a second. Yeah, I heard a statistic, maybe like really early in my journey. There was a woman psychiatrist on a dad's podcast, and they were talking about how important it was for the menstrual cycle for women. And she was talking about how most women, 1 in 4 women in America, are on antidepressants, which then suppress the rise and fall of their emotions tied to the menstrual cycle. And how most psychiatrists don't ask if you're having a sleep problem. Well, what are you eating? Like, it's always this idea of a pill. It's not like, oh, maybe your diet, maybe your sleep pattern, maybe your work, like maybe you're just naturally stressed out, maybe you're stuck at adulting. And we just go to these defaults of pills. And for women, I believe it's creating this huge even depression with these, like, you're meant to have bad days. You need these cycles to regulate your body. But we don't have these healthy conversations to challenge the status quo. Like, if you go to your doctor, your primary care right now, and ask them about how to understand your nutrition, you're probably going to get a very grade level 1 answer. Like, they're not even trained in healthy nutrition, which is part of the regular body. They're trained in what the prescription and the pharmaceutical companies want you to do, which then just creates this whole dichotomy that creates the problem harder. So I really loved how clear you brought the idea of evidence-based treatment, that there are already solutions. Go in there with the language that you need and understand that it can be fixed. It's not with the pill. It's something that comes from the inside out. You just have to have the language to articulate it.
Yeah, that I love. Yeah. Amen, brother. I'm not an expert on most things, and especially on menstrual cycles or,
You're more of an expert than I am, being a woman. So you got that going for you.
Yeah, maybe. Got that going for me. So, well, definitely not maybe in that case, but I think a big part of treatment is that self-advocacy piece. I think it's vital for us to know more about our PTSD, about our symptoms, about the criteria. We have to know more about it than our chain of command, than our doctor, than our therapist. We need to know that. We need to have an answer. We need to know what that is. If you're going in for a C&P exam, what do you fucking call that? Compensation and pension for the VA. Know your symptoms. Look that shit up. Don't go in blind. Be prepared. Know your symptoms. Know what that is. And go in and ask for evidence-based treatment by name. It is so incredibly important to be able to advocate for yourself, to have the verbiage. A lot of times, and especially clients of color, we've got a lot of data to support this, unfortunately. Clients of color, person of color get really shitty treatment. And so a big part of, talking about PTSD, talking about mental health is I want you to sound smart as fuck. If you're a military veteran, you passed an ASVAB. You know what the fuck's up. But unfortunately, there are a lot of folks who won't take us seriously if you don't have an MD after your name, if you're not called Dr. Umpty Chuck.
If you had a shitty leadership experience and you were just suppressed and told you were a shitbag the entire time, like that in itself will create this, well, who the fuck am I to Google what I could know? Because my entire military existence, I was told that I was just a bag of shit and I wasn't going to do anything. That in itself cancels out the belief that I'm worthy of actually going and getting treated.
So you're singing my song, brother.
Yeah, like one of my earlier like breadcrumbs to what I do now was I was platoon sergeant for 3 months, and one of the things I really loved was taking those Marines out of the other NCOs that labeled shitbags and pulling the Marine out of them that they couldn't see themselves, and that's what kind of gave me that first learning of leadership was taking the people that other people couldn't, that just fucking gave up on, and like, you're a fucking Marine. I can help you understand how you are a Marine. And like, that was how essentially I started putting together. I was like, I really liked that. And that's essentially what leadership is. You help reflect back some of the best parts, what they can't see. And that's why even Friends is a huge component of my life, my whole spiel here on the podcast, because when you suck at seeing your value in the mirror, when you look in the mirror and you just see this weak loser, your friend only sees what he can see, and it's usually positive. And this is why I exist. This podcast exists, is because I said hello to a dad at the park, repeated that process, and then they kept telling me, like, Ben, the way you put words together is not like anything I've heard before. I just felt something I've never felt before. I've told my story about Friends to a bunch of dads, and a dad came up to me at the end crying before he said hello because I gifted him the words to put emotions together that he hadn't felt. Like, those are the moments where I started to put together what I was supposed to be doing with my life.
It's powerful. That is absolutely powerful. I had the chance to read your book too, which I would recommend to anyone watching your podcast. And, it's short, sweet, and to the point, but it's very here are the tools you need. Here are the tools. You could subtitle it, how to know shit, get your life together, and make friends. And see yourself.
I wrote that book so early on because it was an experiment to do it. And if anybody's looking, it's on Amazon. If you Google it, it's the 5 authentic steps to a better life.
And it's cheap. Buy it. It's like $3. It's awesome.
And I read back and like, there are so many breadcrumbs to what I understand now on a deeper level. And I was right there on the tip of it. I just needed to go deeper in the well to understand it. So it's really cool going back and rereading that book, because I've read it a couple times recently. And I'm like, I was right there on top of it. I just have our language to articulate it in a deeper way. And I mean, now I've got it so punchy. Sometimes I can shorten some of those sections in that book down to like 3 or 4 sentences. But like, it is that path back to who you are, because like, anybody listening to this podcast for a long time, this podcast exists because I decided to create a podcast that I needed 5 years ago. So everything that I talk about is my avatar of me. And I know exactly what I needed 5 years ago. So that's what I would have loved to have this type of interview in my ears on the way to work, because it would have fucking woke me up to like, you're kind of neutral and dead. And I was telling you before I recorded, I admitted to the podcast that I'm a little too stuffy. I take myself too seriously. I hope this podcast episode has been a great example of me not being serious, not being stuffy, and being very fluid and dynamic and me, and letting it come into the surface. But I needed permission from that, and I kind of just got in my own way from that. And it happens, and it's perfectly okay.
I love that you're paying it forward. And, I wrote in the foreword to my book that if I had had this exact book, if I had had this, back in fucking 2008, it would have saved me years of bullshit. It would have saved me years of bullshit. And, just like with your podcast, you're filling a gap. It is such a privilege for me, at least. And I know it is for you too. It is a privilege to pay this forward and to give soldiers, give Marines, give military service members, veterans, to give them permission to advocate for themselves, to give them the words they need to sound smart as fuck so that they can get the help they need, to know what an evidence-based treatment is, how to ask for it fucking by name, so that you can take the next 2 months and reclaim your fucking life and your family and your job.
Even if the only thing you remember from this episode is evidence-based PTSD treatment, even if you have an idiot doctor in front of you, they can Google that. And I'm sure it'll very quickly come up with those 3 or 4 things that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And like, even those things will give them exactly where to look. And like, it's all right there. And something you kind of talked about in your whole message in your book, it kind of paints this. To me, I feel like the graduation moment when you're on the other side of PTSD is you figured out how to make your mess your message. When you've been able to take the shit of what you went through, put it to the world with an unemotional attachment of fuck it, whatever happens, happens. Then you're at this point where, yes, it happened, it fucked up, whatever, it's in the past, but now I can go back and help people that just started on step 1. That is when you really understand, like, this doesn't have any fucking power over me anymore, and I'm ready to fucking go wherever life goes.
Yeah, it's that soldier in a hole analogy.
Yes.
So
jump in there. I've been here. I know how to get out.
I know how to get out. And before we started recording, you were talking about hate mail and haters. And I get a ton of hate. I get a ton of hate. Bring it. Drink your haterade, bitches. I got it. Because a lot of people take exception to somebody with a vagina who says the F word. A lot of people take exception to me, to my book, to everything that, who do you think you are? Well, I'm someone who's trying. And I'm not going to stop anybody from writing their own book and being the best version of them. You do you. You do you.
The most important part in coaching, because this always comes up where people, like I internalized all this feedback, especially if you're a nice guy. And I'm sure if in therapy, you've learned about the nice guy problem within men, like they just spent their entire life being a nice guy. When you've spent your entire life being a nice guy, looking for other people's approval, everything they say is internalized. And the way through what you just said that I always tell men about is what they said about you 120% says more about them than it will ever say about you. And the most important part also within this idea that I also talk about is you're doing something that proves their fucking world wrong, and it scares the shit out of them that they might have fucking got it wrong, and they're trying to convince you to pull you back. I don't know if you've ever heard the crab is in a bucket analogy, where a crab trying to crawl out of a bucket, the other ones will pull it back down. Almost every time someone comes in your life and hates on you, it's because you're doing something that fucks with their view of the world that they've believed in, whether 50 or 60 years old, and it really bothers them. And they're trying to get you to convince to go back and drink that Kool-Aid. And you have to remember, it's about their view, not yours. And you're a free human being to do whatever the fuck you need to do.
Yeah, Freud called that projection. And I love the idea that just like a movie projector, we take how we feel about ourselves and we project it on others. You'll see like the Rorschach here in back of me. The world is like a big Rorschach test. Freud said, we think we're looking out a window, but we're really looking in a mirror. And that's so true. And I realized that when talking about PTSD and talking about my background that, I engender a lot of hate. I get that. I wrote this article for the Naval War College. This is back in like 2013 or so. And the editor, said, I've never gotten so much hate mail about an article before that we published in the Naval War College Review. And I was like, welcome to my
people
world.
Read it. Congratulations.
Well, hardly anyone reads it. I mean, it is what it is.
The people who are out there reading it.
There's someone's reading it and someone's hating it and hating on me. But and there's a lot in my book, writing a book and having a podcast. And especially because your podcast is so centered, Ben, on authenticity. And when I was writing this, there was so much fear that I had. I said, what's going to happen if my clients, for example, find out that I was once suicidal or I had PTSD? Or that I'm not the brilliant, professor they think I am. It was choosing to be, what are people going to think if I bring my whole truth to the table? And, that's kind of the beauty of age. But I also had to kind of weigh out, okay, well, what's more important? My ego here and what people may or may not think, because what other people think of me is none of my fucking business. Or is it, taking a risk and having a message and just putting it out there and laying the chip,
and maybe just changing the world.
Yeah. But as the Dalai Lama said, you just got to shake it off.
What also analogy that I popped in my head that you might also like, I don't know whether you're connected to this or not, but I always talk about the bullshit that's in your shadows is what's really holding you back. And I always like equating it to Superman. No matter what fucking happened to Superman, if he did draw blood, it was the light that healed it. And the part that most people don't understand about scars, scar tissue heals 2 times stronger than the original skin tissue that was there before the scar. And so if you bring it into the light, it will heal, and it will heal stronger. And that's why I think it was so important. No matter fucking what happens to whoever reads it and whoever gets pissed, the healing process that happens when you bring all of the shit into the light and just let it be what it is, that healing process is like the sun hitting Superman, and it's where he gets his strength from. It's where all that power comes from, And if you keep a lot of shit in the shadows, you're just wasting RAM in your internal processor and just creating future therapy clients for people after PTSD that still have to unpack why their father hated them.
Yeah, because I traffic in trauma. I mean, I'll never run out of clients, unfortunately. I'll always have a waiting list a mile long. It is what it is. Yeah, that stuff in the shadows, recently, for me, I have a sobriety journey and I'm part of a 12-step program and, really, really proud of my sobriety and and how fucking unbelievably hard that was. And, it, I realized that it does bring, when, and I'm not going to lie to you when I talk about that with, because why the fuck would I lie about that? I got no reason. I talk about that with other treatment professionals or if it comes up, and it's not something I bring up. I mean, it's fucking anonymous for a reason. I mean, get a grip. But, sometimes it'll come up and people will be like, the fuck, what? You? And, that idea of judgment, a lot of us, and I'm not immune to this. I'm so not immune to this. I was just talking with someone about this morning. When I get that judgment, when I get that, really that judgment, I have to think back. I have to kind of center myself and really, focus on that. For me, that center journey and my relationship with my higher power and say, am I really a slave to this belief system? Am I buying into, because someone who judges us is actively trying to shame us, actively trying to make us feel that there is something fundamentally wrong with us. And I've done a lot of bad shit. I have a lot that I can be guilty about. But you know what?
It's a lot to be grateful for, because without all that shit, you wouldn't be the superhero you are today, lifting up veterans through their shit. Like, that's the power of the mess to the message, because once you realize, and even my own story, like I talk about it openly. I use it as a teaching tool. Like, without that, you're just this guy trying to hold the flashlight and randomly point in places. But when you fucking been there, your ability to go someplace quick, like, almost is like, that is what is your superpower, because that's what they value you, because, wow, you knew exactly where that ID was and exactly where to look and what it would look like. Wow, how'd you fucking do that? Well, I was fucking there. I did it 2 years ago. And I disarmed it. And so now I can help you disarm it. Like, to me, that's the magic of that shit when you let it go, because it creates the juice that allows you to do fucking big things. I almost wish I had more adversity in my life early on. Like, if you think of even Oprah had like fucking horrible upbringing. And to think how fucking how high she climbed, or Tony Robbins, like, the more adversity early in life and the earlier you can convert your shit to your message, I mean, the sky's the limit of where you can go if you can fully accept and believe you can move beyond it and into where you need to go.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not an easy journey, but it's worth it.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's not easy, but man, I always like the Stoic idea of it. It's the obstacle is the way, and it's not about avoiding the obstacle. It's about figuring out, what is this teaching you? And to wrap up that final thought, there was one that kind of teaching you that it kind of almost caught me off guard when we were doing the interview. And it was with Bobby Dove last November, and he lost an arm and a leg in Afghanistan to an IED, and he described it as the best day of his life. Because I was like, so, like, what was it about this day? And I asked him the question, like, what was the universe trying to teach you leading up to this moment, that only through this devastating thing did you finally learn? And through some questions, we figured out to learn to ask for help and to learn to love himself, because his dad died of cancer when he was 12, and he was stuck at 12 trying to grow up but never could figure out how. Losing his arm and his leg really opened him up to loving himself for who he is in a limited way, and then also having the courage and accept from help from other people. And that, without that moment, he wouldn't have had that shift. Now he's a dad, he's got 2 kids, and he's as happy as he's ever been. But it took that huge shift. And it's like, when you hear those, I'm sure you've heard them as well. Like, they describe those kind of devastating days as, this is the best day of my life.
I do hear a lot of stories like that. And I always approach them with caution. And I'll tell you why. I think it's awesome that he had that experience. And what the fuck, what do I know? But I'm leery of those stories because I think in some cases, it creates an unreal expectation for somebody who's really struggling to, like, if I can't overcome this and say that, the time my buddy got killed in combat
That
is
it
the
was
best
the
day
best.
of my
Like if you
life.
can't get to that conclusion, like it creates a entrapment into it, kind of the question.
It can. I hear it a lot with assault survivors, whether it's MST or childhood sexual assault or rape or incest. It's, I hear that, that very, there's always somebody who's like, well, I forgave my attacker and it was the right thing to do, yada yada bullshit. And not that it's their yada yada bullshit, but just on and on. And then there are a lot of us who can stand back and say, how?
Yeah, that
How?
how like it's
Like that's almost like this crazy standard that almost unrealistic, that if I can't hold myself to it, what am I doing? I have a client that I'm working with right now, who comes to mind immediately because she compares herself to Elizabeth Smart. She was that young girl who somewhere in like one of those square states in the middle, like Utah or something, maybe. I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, so she got kidnapped as a kid. Fucking unbelievable story. She got kidnapped. She was put into like some sort of cult, religious cult. And I'm butchering poor Elizabeth Smart's story. Please go Google that shit for yourself. Don't believe my ass. But then she had tons of like excellent therapy and social support and family who just fucking loved her. And she had this amazing comeback where now she's like a national speaker. And she, she's this inspirational speaker. And here my client was like, well, if I can't hit the Elizabeth Smart standard, what the fuck am I doing? I'm like, girl, let's talk. Let's talk. She had she had family, she had support, she didn't just wake up and be like, yeah, it's the best day of my life. Your guy in Afghanistan probably went through a lot of really good therapy. Has really great.
He was connected with the George Bush Institute, which is where I got connected with them. So he had pretty much the gold treatment probably through those programs of what they can provide and just get connected. And he was also connected with a house from the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Yeah. Oh man.
He had the right people in his life to help bring him home. And the part that within that story that you were just mentioning about climbing and going through all of that shit, like it is hard when you hear those stories, and it is hard finding meaning in that, and it is hard going through that. And I was just watching this past weekend Chris Norton documentary on Netflix, who had a spinal injury in football and in high school, and essentially you would fucking jump out of your chair in the scene because he's in the hospital, he's kind of sitting in a chair, and the doctor's like, and he thinks he has feeling in his feet. And he tells the doctor, can you take my socks off? I'd like to see. And he's like, I'm sorry, son, I'm not going to do that. You're never going to have any feeling in your legs below your waist for the rest of your life. And just fucking vacuumed out it like a fucking soul-breathing monster. And that created this moment of like, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong. And like the next 10 years of the journey is how learning to walk 7 yards. The title of the movie is 7 Yards, and how to walk 7 yards down the aisle of his wedding. And now he's still in a wheelchair, but he can move around, and he's gone through a lot of physical therapy. He's found this amazing woman in his life. They foster kids now and give them second homes. And he has a similar, like, I wouldn't take that moment away from me. It was sucked, but man, knowing the destination I'm in now, it is how I wanted it to happen. Like it's fucking hard when you try to do that from that moment. He talks about that moment. Like when I was sitting in the hospital and that fucking doctor told me I was never going to walk again. And even the mom was like, we just didn't have certainty. And she's at the wedding, and like, man, I wish I could go back and tell myself in those first few weeks, it's all going to be good. And he also had it was a cool, really unique story because his brothers in college were also very supportive. And like, he would have people sleeping with him that would wake up and scratch his leg when he can't do it. And like, he had this amazing support network of love. And it's going back to that story from Sarah. And like, it's really good. I was fucking bawling the entire time. Like I was bawling my eyes out just from the sheer emotion, the feeling of dad, just the journey. Like, oh man, my tear ducts were flowing pretty good in that movie.
yeah, he had people to support him, and, like you're a coach. People, your listeners can hire you, can have a phone call with you, can go to your website, can connect with you. So even if we're having a hard time making friends, you can get a coach. You can go to a therapist. Therapists, coaches are a vital part of your social support. You don't have to be the homecoming king.
Yeah.
Just so incredibly important. It's just one small step. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. One bite at a time.
The short answer to my friendship is you're always one conversation away from changing your life, and it's only on the other side of hello. Like, that is literally the first step to any of this bullshit is a hello, whether it be a hello to a therapist at the VA or whether it be a hello to a friend like, hey, I had a bad day. Literally, on the other side of hello could be the exact thing you waited your entire life.
Yeah, I love how you said that in your book. You talked about how you talk to strangers.
Yeah, like my daughter will like, Daddy, why are you waving to random people? I'm like, because it's a nice fucking thing to do. And it's often like hard when she's 4, like you're trying to balance, like don't talk to strangers. But I'm like, I want you to feel comfortable waving and providing that just like, hey, how's it going? Because I don't want her to have that weird energy like I did, that I couldn't cross that threshold and be like, hey, how's it going? And I want her to feel comfortable. And even as we're riding by or people are walking, she's like, hey, hi. And I really enjoy seeing that because I can only fucking imagine how it's going to extrapolate later on in life for her. So Virginia, thank you so much for this interview. I think we just set a record for the longest podcast recording a military veteran dad, but man, it was fucking worth
Your
it. Your
fault.
It is my fault. But sometimes those conversations just go well. And I mean, this topic, if there was ever a topic to go long on, PTSD is threaded to so much bullshit within what I've been trying to do. So if there was ever a topic to go on steroids and go knee fucking deep into and try to take a shower and try to get off the stink of this topic, this was the topic to go in. So I can't imagine. I thank you so much for coming to my life and reaching out to come on the podcast, because this podcast, I am positive, is going to bring many military dads home.
Yeah, I love your work, Ben. I really want to encourage you what you're doing. I really would encourage folks to get out there, read your book, read your blog posts, because it's powerful shit. You got some powerful shit out there, man. And I love what you're doing. I love that you're connecting with military dads. And I just want to encourage your viewers and your listeners, that you can no shit reclaim your life. You can reclaim your life from PTSD. You can get your life back. You can be an amazing dad. You can be an amazing spouse or partner. I just want to encourage your viewers, go to thesoldiersguide.com. You can go ahead and download for free and just go ahead and get those symptoms, figure your shit out. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. Don't assume I have a life, because I so don't.
The most common thing that people get wrong with influencers is feedback is the number one thing that we all cherish, and most people don't give it to us enough. So like, just let us know out there what's going on. And if you go ahead over to thesoldiersguide.com, check out that book, let her know how it is. Tell her a story about how it accessed a feeling or a thought that you couldn't put words to. Because that's often what we just don't know how to articulate, is when you read something, you're like, oh, that's what it is. Like, I don't know how many times I've made, like, it's not something I want to brag about, but there's a lot of times I'll say something, I'll tell a man, like, I think you've been looking for home your entire life. You've just been looking in the wrong places, and they'll start crying. Like, I don't try to do that. I don't think it's very emotional, but man, when you put the right words and the right feeling and the right time, poof, everything can start changing. And that's what a book like yours could do and help people come home very well. So thank you again, Virginia. This podcast, I know, is going to make an impact out there.
Hey, thanks, brother. I really value you.
Boom. Mic drop. You made it to the other side of this episode. If you hung on to the other side of this episode, that meant what this episode meant to you was it was resonating on a deep, deep level. The story that Virginia told, the language that she brought it to you, and the way that it was that no BS method of cutting through what people really need to hear. That so many times PTSD is this complicated multi-layer onion as it's presented to veterans, and most veterans see it as something complicated, and they would just rather stay where they are and not move forward. To me, my big, massive takeaway is that I, myself, the host of this podcast, did not know enough about PTSD, because in this episode, having some of the things that I thought to be true challenged and reflected back was really eye-opening for me. Whether it be the post-traumatic growth disorder, or understanding what happens when someone does recognize this is the best day of their life, or someone that's still way before that trying to get to that point and be like, well, I'm not them. I'm never going to be that. This was a very open and honest conversation about PTSD, and I'm so glad that we had it on this podcast because I know this episode is going to bring many military dads home to their families. And the big takeaway from me was this idea of evidence-based treatment, that it is something as simple as knowing what you need, going to the VA, getting your appointment, going through the process, and coming out healed. That I think, and I agreed with Virginia, that so many people get caught up that it has to be like a child that you raise your entire life. Like it's a student loan that you're just going to have with you the rest of your life. Like PTSD isn't never going to go away. But I like the hope that she provides that there is a way to get through it. And they know how. You just need to go, ask for help, and know that veterans go through this process every single day. This isn't something new that the VA just started figuring out. They probably figured out how to communicate it better, but this is not something that the VA just came up with. This is something that through statistics and through practice, they've learned about 80% of the time they can get a veteran back to being normal. So guys, this is your wake-up call to go out there, get into the VA, get your help, get your evidence-based treatment if you know that you're one of those guys that has been holding back on trying to heal because you told yourself, just like some of the stories that she said, well, I'm just going to be this way for my entire life. There's nothing I can do about it. BS. And so I hope that this was a wake-up call. I hope if you hung on to the other side of this episode, that meant that it meant something to you. And now you have a gift to go do something with that and come home yourself. So with that, signing off from the longest and the most swearing episode we've ever had. And I will talk to you guys again next week on Friday.